Hey guys, I'm going to show you how to set up your Canvas assessments so that you have your separate adapted and non-adapted tests that will then sync to Skyward for you. So this is through Canvas assignments and Canvas quizzes, not through Mastery Connect. So this is if you're giving an assessment through Canvas quizzes. So the first thing you need to do is in the course that you're wanting to give your test in, you're going to go to the Settings tab here on the left. So you'll click Settings, and you want to make two different groups for your students. You'll want an adapted group of students, and you'll want a non-adapted group of students. Then you're going to, once you've created these groups, that's how you're going to assign. So if you don't have groups already set up, you do not want to get rid of your Skyward groups, your Skyward sections that were set at the beginning of the school year. You're just going to add two additional. So you'll go down here to add new section, and you'll type in the name of the section. We'll call this one adapted 2, and then you're going to click add section. Then you'll do the same thing for your non-adapted group of kids. So I'll just make another one that's non-adapted 2, and I'm going to add my section. So after you've created your sections, you're going to want to put your students into that section. So this does take a little bit of time, but once you do it once, you never ever have to do it again until, of course, you get a new student. Then he'll have to go into the appropriate group, but that's only one time. So you'll go to the People tab here on the left, and you see your group of students and observers and all of that. So for each student, you're going to click these three dots on the right, and you'll go to Edit Sections. And you're going to want to just add them to the new section. You can't get rid of their old section, their Skyward section. But see how I've added this student to my non-adapted section? So I would start typing in my non-adapted. I want to add this student to non-adapted 2, and I'm going to click Update. Then I'm going to do the same thing for any kid that gets an adapted version of the test. So I would click Edit Sections, and let's say I want to put this student in the adapted section. So I would put them in adapted 2 and Update. The reason you put them into two different sections, adapted versus non-adapted, is so that my adapted kids cannot access my non-adapted test, and my non-adapted kids are not accessing the adapted version of the test. So when I'm ready to give my assessment then, I'm going to go down here to where it says quizzes or assignments. And let's say I'm giving this cell transport test, which I just gave the other day. So I'm going to open my cell transport test, and I'm going to edit the assignment. I would set up my settings the same as I normally would, making sure that it's in the correct category. I sync it to my SIS, and I give it a due date. But when I assign it to my students, so the first time I assign it, I'm going to assign it to just my non-adapted students. So I might assign this one to my non-adapted 2 kids, if this is the regular version of my test. If it's the adapted version of my test, I would assign it to just my adapted section of students. That way, my students can only access their assigned quiz, basically. So make sure you put a due date, a close date, all of that, and then you're going to click Save. Then you're going to repeat the same thing for your adapted version of the test. So I would go back, find my cell transport test adapted, and this one I'm only going to assign to my adapted students. So if you look at the settings for this assessment, then you'll see that only my adapted students are assigned. So right here, it's for only my adapted kids. When you go into grades, you'll see that I can only have grades for my adapted students because they're the only ones that are assigned to that adapted version of the test. So nobody else can get a grade for this. So what I'm going to do now is once my students have taken the test, so here's my test right here in my grade book, the majority of my students get the non-adapted version, but I have one student who gets the adapted version of the test. So when I'm ready to sync my grades, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the cell transport test settings once everybody's taken it, and I'm going to edit this and change it so that everyone is assigned to the test now. Now that everybody's taken it, it doesn't really matter that they can't get back into it because they've taken it once. So I'm going to assign it to everyone so that it will sync to Skyward, and I'm going to click Save. Now what I can do is for my few students who get an adapted version of the test is I can go in here and I can type in their grade now. You got a 10 out of 20. So I'm going to type that into my cell transport test right here. And then once I've entered all of my grades, I can then sync to Skyward. So I'm going to go click sync to SIS. And then I'm going to just do my cell transport test and post my grades. So that's just an easy way to keep it so that your grades will sync to Skyward, but also keep your test secure so that your adapted versus your non-adapted kids are not accessing the wrong test. To give them the link, all I do is post the link in my agenda. So on my agenda page, my students have two links. I have a link for the regular version of my test, and then I have a link for my adapted version of the test. And I can put this either on my agenda if you do a table in Canvas, or if you do a Google Slides like I do, you'll just put the link in there. Once this loads, everything is being extremely slow right now, of course. So once your agenda is loaded, you'll see that the links to the two assessments are in there. So you'll see on the day that I gave the test, I have my cell transport test. This is my regular version that the majority of my students will be accessing. And then I have the adapted version. So if a student is assigned to the adapted version, it won't let them open the regular version of the cell transport test and vice versa. So I just give them two links, they take the correct test, and then I import it into my gradebook and sync it to Canvas.